Walk into any high-stakes room, a boardroom, a negotiation table, a private dinner with powerful people, and watch carefully. The loudest person rarely controls it. It's not the one telling the longest stories, not the one interrupting, not the one performing confidence. Control almost always sits with the calmest person in the room. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never notice it happening. Because real dominance doesn't announce itself. It regulates the temperature of the room without asking permission. Think about the last time you felt slightly off balance in a conversation. Maybe someone paused before answering you. Maybe they held eye contact half a second longer than expected. Maybe they didn't react to something you said that was designed to provoke. That wasn't accidental. Calm is not passive. It's strategic non-reactivity. Most people believe control is about projection. Louder voice, stronger opinions, faster responses. But projection is compensation. It leaks effort. True control is the absence of visible effort. When someone remains emotionally neutral under pressure, your brain begins recalibrating around them. Your nervous system adjusts. The room adjusts. The hierarchy subtly shifts. And here's the part most people don't understand. Calmness isn't a personality trait. It's a power signal. But not all calm is equal. Some calm is fear disguised as silence. Some calm is suppression. And some calm is calculated authority. The difference determines whether you're ignored or quietly obeyed. In this video, we're breaking down what actually happens psychologically when a calm individual enters a room, and why most people misinterpret the mechanics completely. Because once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Most people lose control of a room before they even realize they're competing for it. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they misunderstand how authority is perceived. The first mistake? Reactivity. When someone challenges you and you respond instantly, you believe you're demonstrating sharpness. In reality, you're signaling emotional availability. Immediate reactions reveal that your internal state is externally controlled. Power does not rush. The second mistake is over-explaining. When people feel uncertain about how they're perceived, they compensate with volume. More words, more context, more clarification. But excessive explanation triggers a subtle cognitive bias in observers. If you're trying that hard to justify yourself, your position must be unstable. Authority rarely justifies itself. Third mistake, seeking microvalidation. Laughing too quickly, nodding excessively, softening statements with unnecessary qualifiers. These behaviors seem harmless. They're socially acceptable. But socially acceptable is not the same as high status. High status individuals regulate the tempo of interaction. They don't chase approval cues. They let others adjust. Now here's where it becomes uncomfortable. Most people are loud because silence exposes insecurity. Silence forces you to sit with your own internal dialogue. It creates tension, and humans are wired to resolve tension quickly. So they fill it. They interrupt pauses. They rush to respond. They signal nervous energy through subtle body movements. But every time you rush to remove tension, you surrender leverage. Calm individuals do the opposite. They allow silence to stretch. They let questions breathe. They respond after thinking, not after feeling. And this subtle difference shifts perception in ways that feel almost unfair. Because control isn't about dominating the conversation. It's about controlling the emotional climate. And most people don't even realize they're broadcasting instability. To understand why calm people control rooms, you have to understand one principle. Human beings unconsciously rank emotional stability in power dynamics. The person least emotionally disturbed by the environment is perceived as most in control of it. This isn't philosophy, it's neurobiology. When tension rises in a room, disagreement, uncertainty, competition, everyone's nervous system subtly scans for the most regulated individual. The brain is constantly asking, who here is safest to anchor to? Who is least reactive? The person who appears unshaken becomes the reference point. Now add cognitive bias to the equation. There's a bias known as authority bias, the tendency to attribute greater accuracy and competence to those who appear composed and confident. But here's the nuance. Confidence is often performative. Composure is physiological. The brain detects the difference. Strategic silence amplifies this effect. When someone pauses before responding, they create micro-tension. That tension forces attention toward them. Silence becomes a spotlight. Most people rush to speak to relieve that spotlight. Calm individuals tolerate it. That tolerance signals capacity. And capacity is power. Another layer, emotional regulation. If you cannot be emotionally moved, you cannot be easily manipulated. The room senses that. Consciously or not, people test for it. With disagreement, sarcasm, subtle challenges. If you react, you lose frame control. If you remain neutral, you absorb the challenge without shifting position. That's when the hierarchy stabilizes around you. But here's the critical distinction. Detached calm is not coldness. It's controlled engagement. You speak when necessary. You react selectively. You conserve expression. The result? People begin measuring their behavior against yours. And when others adjust themselves around you, you are no longer participating in the room. You are regulating it. If calmness is a power signal, it must be practiced deliberately, not as personality, but as structure. Here are 5 principles that separate passive quietness from controlled authority. 1. Control the tempo, not the volume. Most people try to sound powerful. Fewer understand pacing. Slow your responses slightly, not dramatically, just enough to show processing. When you regulate tempo, others unconsciously sync to you. Tempo control shifts interactional gravity. Pause, then speak. 2. Remove emotional leakage. Micro-expressions, nervous laughter, defensive tone shifts. These are authority leaks. They communicate internal disturbance. The goal is not emotional suppression, but emotional filtering. Feel internally. Display selectively. Composure must look natural, not forced. 3. Master the strategic pause. Silence is not emptiness. It is pressure. When asked a challenging question, hold eye contact. Let the space stretch. Most people will begin adjusting their tone or elaborating to fill it. You gain informational advantage without saying a word. Silence reveals more than speech. For respond, don't resolve. High control individuals do not rush to settle tension. They respond with clarity, not urgency. Urgency communicates need. Clarity communicates stability. If disagreement occurs, state your position once, without emotional charge, and let it stand. Authority does not beg to be accepted. 5. Maintain selective expressiveness. Emotional contrast increases impact. If you're expressive constantly, your reactions lose weight. When calm is your baseline, even slight approval or disapproval carries magnitude. Controlled variability amplifies influence. Here's the shift most people never make. Calm is not about being quiet. It's about being unmovable. When your internal state remains stable under pressure, others subconsciously grant you higher rank. And once rank is granted, influence follows. But this raises a deeper question. If calmness creates control, why do so few people sustain it? Here's why so few people sustain calm authority. Because it requires internal security most people haven't built. It's easy to perform composure when nothing is at stake. It's different when your ideas are challenged. When your status feels uncertain, when silence feels like exposure. In those moments, the nervous system wants relief. It wants to speak, justify, correct, defend. Calm individuals resist that impulse. Not because they're emotionless, but because they understand something fundamental. The person who needs the least validation holds the most control. Let that settle. Control is not about overpowering others. It's about not being overpowered by your own reactions. When you stop trying to win every micro-interaction, something shifts. You begin observing instead of proving. You listen for leverage instead of applause. You allow others to reveal themselves while you remain structurally steady. And over time, a pattern forms. People speak more carefully around you. They interrupt you less. They seek your response. Not because you demanded respect, but because your emotional stability made you the anchor. This is the long game of authority. It doesn't rely on charisma spikes or dominance displays. It relies on consistency under pressure. And once that consistency is visible, something subtle happens. You stop trying to control the room, and the room begins calibrating around you. In the next video, we'll break down the hidden signals that quietly lower your perceived rank, even when you believe you're confident. Because authority isn't loud, it's measured. And once you understand the mechanics, you don't compete for power.